Topping today's news, administrators prepare for the new school year, politicians critical of banks' poor treatment of customers, a man charged with the 79th murder, and police involved in a shootout on Collins Avenue. Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Jarino Saunders. This is your JCN Evening News, and it is a pleasure to have you join us. During the opening of the Department of Education two-day annual Public Schools Administrators Conclave at Life Changers Ministries International, the Minister of Education, Glenys Hannah Martin, complimented and thanked each administrator for the role they play in the educational system. Ashania Roberts has more on the conclave in this next report.
As she welcomed hundreds of school administrators to the annual two-day conclave on Monday, Minister of Education Glenys Hannah Martin reminded them that despite the ongoing improvements in education, there is still a long way to go. Ms. Hannah Martin acknowledged that there are concerns administrators have expressed as they enter the new school years. She vowed to address those issues.
I pledge to you to do all that I can within the confines and in spite of the bureaucratic systems and processes to advocate and pursue to resolution those issues which create the incongruence which I've alluded to. These issues have in many instances put a spotlight on the necessity for pragmatic reform on multiple levels, and those reforms must be and are being pursued. We are working to complete and finally perfect all outstanding human resource matters. And we have this year, I believe, addressed leadership gaps on school campuses. We know the stresses this has created. We've worked to build the morale of those who form your team and upon whom you rely to achieve your goals and objectives and the aims of this ministry. This includes both teachers and support staff.
Ms. Hannah Martin shared why she feels the conclave for principals, assistant principals, district, and school administrators is critical to a successful educational system.
This annual gathering of public school administrators is organized to support and help strengthen you as our campus leaders for the execution of more effective leadership. Some 430 public school administrators were trained in 24 focus areas during last year's conclave. This year's conclave promises to be even more dynamic, collaborative, and motivational as we anticipate the engagement of 475 school leaders in several professional development sessions over the course of the next 2 days.
Director of Education Dominic McCartney Russell encouraged the administrators, that includes principals, senior masters, and mistresses, to be strong leaders.
Leaders, you empower your educators. You provide teachers with resources, training, and support they need to succeed. Your leadership is essential. You foster innovation. You encourage innovative teaching methods, and you use technology to enhance learning experiences. How many of you remember the action research? Anyone who went to COB know about that long action research. You do that every day. You build a positive culture. You create an inclusive and supportive environment where students and staff feel valued and motivated.
The conclave's focus is on building capacity, strengthening partnerships, and professional collaborations while providing support for all school leaders. I'm Shania Roberts for JCN News.
Thanks for that report, Shania. The much-anticipated annual back-to-school VAT-free holiday began on Sunday. Each year, the government mandates a tax-free period on all school supplies and related items to alleviate some of the cost incurred preparing students for their return to the classroom. This exemption is set to last for 4 weeks ending September 14th. All merchants are required by law to apply to the VAT-free exemptions. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Fred Mitchell, is not backing down from his quest for local banks to treat its customers better, stop introducing unwarranted fees, and for the regulators, the Central Bank of the Bahamas, to do a better job of protecting Bahamian consumers. On Monday, Mr. Mitchell responded to comments made last week by Gowan Bowe, chairman of the Clearing Banks Association and president of Fidelity Bank, in relation to the new banking fees. Mr. Bowe explained that just like the government raises fees to offset costs, the banks are doing the same. Mr. Bowe warned politicians not to try and dictate to private entities or risk going down a slippery slope of communism. Mr. Mitchell responded like this.
Well, the only slippery slope I think it would lead to, in my opinion, is better service. Hyperbole is sometimes useful, but in my view, not in this instance. Business people reading that stuff about slippery slope and communist state would think twice about coming to a communist state to do business, if that's what's in the Bahamas. So the comment was not helpful, apart from being inaccurate. The banks are regulated now, but the response from the Clearinghouse Bank's chair betrays a larger issue and problem, which is service to the Bahamian public will not improve if the banks just don't get it. They keep trying to force us to swallow digitalization when the internet doesn't work here. The service is a second rate of the banks, and they are charging you to keep your own money. If the central bank does not intervene more aggressively, as they have in Barbados, then perhaps the legislature will have to intervene.
Mr. Bowe was reported as saying that banks have shareholders to satisfy and that they are justified in the recent fee increases for various services, including at ATMs, over-the-counter transactions, as well as increases in monthly service fees for personal, business, and corporate banking clients. In the meantime, many residents, they're accusing the banks of being greedy as they continue to report healthy quarterly and annual profits. Meanwhile, the FNM pledges major reforms to protect Bahamian bank customers while encouraging the government to do more than give lip service to the Bahamian people. The FNM says if returned to office, their proposals include expanding regulatory oversight, increasing the regulatory remit of the Central Bank of the Bahamas to assess the validity of banking fees, ensure that fees are transparent, fair, and not simply junk fees with no justification. And finally, in this segment, on Monday in the Magistrates Court, 24-year-old Wendrico Kerr of Revival Faithway charged with the Saturday, August 10th murder of Angelo Weish. Weish, who was reportedly a friend of Kerr, was found shot dead in bushes near the South Beach Canal. Weish, who sustained multiple gunshot injuries to his upper torso, was last seen walking with another male shortly before gunshots were heard. Kerr was not required to enter a plea to the murder charge. He was denied bail, and the matter has been adjourned to January 30th, 2025 for the presentation of a voluntary bill of indictment. Since this homicide, the murder count has risen to 82, with a man being shot to death on Bimini on August 15th, a man found bound by his hands and feet, stabbed to death at the Old Stewart's Cove location on August 16th, and a 23-year-old shot and killed while at an eatery on Hospital Lane in the Baines and Grantstown area. That was also on August 16th. You're listening to JCN News. We'll take a break here. We'll be right back after these commercials.